Young Drunk!
Far down, kid.
Hey, welcome to the Micheaux Mission. 2 men, 1 podcast. Every black film ever made. My name is Len, a.k.a. the Bat Tribble. And as always, I'm joined by my partner.
Hey, this is Vincent Williams.
Tonight, we have a very special guest in studio of Sticky Note Conversations. Erika Washington is with us.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us all the way from Las Vegas here live in studio.
Sin City.
All right.
Amen. Amen. And she is joining us tonight, missionaries, to review one of the biggest films of 2024 and still a big film here in the second month of 2025. It is Wicked, Part 1.
Part 1.
Part 1. Here for our review tonight on the Micheaux Mission, which is streaming live from Young Junk, Philadelphia's premier video podcast palace that is nestled in the town of Manayunk, which is surrounded by the city of brotherly love that is Philadelphia, which is the home of the E-A-G-L-E-S Eagles! Yeah, baby! You knew it was coming, dog. You knew it was coming. That's right. Super Bowl champions, Casey, all up in your hands. Oh, it hurts so good. Yes.
Go Birds.
Yay. Football.
Go Birds. So there was a game this weekend, is what you're saying? There was a game?
Oh, it was a game in name only because it was a slaughter.
Yeah.
It was Game of Thrones. It was the Red Wedding. It was everything. It was.
So you enjoyed it? You enjoyed the game?
God, yes.
You enjoyed the game?
Yeah, God.
You were pleased. with
So
the outcome.
here's the thing. In 2017, well, actually, it happened in 2018, but it was the 2017 football season.
Sure.
When the Eagles won that Super Bowl,
Yes.
I did not watch that Super Bowl.
Okay.
So I haven't seen them play a Super Bowl until 2 years ago when I watched them play the Super Bowl, and they lost.
Right.
Great game, but they lost.
Sure.
So to sit and watch them decimate.
I was about to say, because it seems like it was just an ongoing thing. Like, I kept getting updates, and it was like an ass whooping. So
In the first half, Kansas City had 23 total yards of offense.
which is not good for them.
No, especially considering that the Eagles had 24 points.
I know.
At that
It's
point.
amazing context clues.
Yes. Oh, hey, Erika's here.
Just let them,
I want you to
look,
bask
absolutely
in it.
do your thing, brother.
I had to get it out there. I had to get it out there. I have not taken off this shirt in 2 days.
You know, you could get another Eagle shirt, or is that the one that you had on during the game?
Yes.
So is that what you'll wear from now on when there's some type of championship or conference title or
If they make it to the Super Bowl, this is the shirt.
Super Bowl? This is your shirt.
This is the shirt.
Henceforth.
Yes.
That's fair.
Yes.
Is that why they won? Because you had that shirt on?
You know, I would say that, but I wore this shirt 2 years ago as well, and we lost. So I can't say that. But trust me, I will never not take it off when we are winning, playing for the Super Bowl.
Okay, that's fair. Well, yeah, Eagles.
All right.
I'm very happy.
And
all jokes aside, I'm very happy.
And I wore it for 2 days because I wanted to show you.
Right. Certainly I've never seen an Eagle shirt before.
Not a 72-hour-old.
No. Fair. Now that's fair.
All right. Enough of that. I did. Don't worry, Erika. I showered in the shirt, so I'm fine.
In the shirt?
Okay.
Do you think that helps?
I mean, you smell fine from here, so it's fine regardless in whatever it is that you did. But go sports balls. I'm very excited.
Oh, you're not a sports ball. Oh.
Yay, our team.
Yay.
Boo, their team.
Right. I mean, I'm a Lions fan.
Okay, there you go.
Oh, then that's why. Okay, I understand.
No, I mean, and they got real close.
They did.
So I was really excited about that, and I felt a lot of joy for them. I didn't really watch them play, but I do own a shirt because I understand. Go team. I think that's important.
It is
It's
important.
because I'm showing support.
Exactly.
But I was busy doing other things.
Well, that's the way life is.
Ask him if he has a Baltimore Ravens shirt.
I don't.
Oh.
Oh, this is terrible that I'm
you
about to say
support- do
this
you
out loud.
support the-
But you asked me. I think the insignia and the colors are ugly.
You don't like purple? Is it
I
purple?
don't like any of it. And I'm old enough that if I were going to wear something, it would be the Colts.
Did you have a Colts?
I did when I was younger.
Okay.
Who are the Colts?
I'm old. Oh, see. I was about to say, I'm old enough that when I see a Mayflower truck, it upsets me.
Oh, yeah.
The Colts used to be the team in Baltimore, and then the owner left in the middle of the night and moved the team
To Indianapolis.
to Indianapolis. So if you are a Baltimorean of a certain age, burned into your memory is that image of the Mayflower trucks leaving Baltimore.
That's who we hired to move.
Right, like late in the night,
Literally
early
in the
morning.
middle of the night.
Yeah,
He moved the players too?
yeah.
Yes, he moved.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know you could just get up and just move everybody.
He just up and they rode out caravan style to Indianapolis.
Oh.
All because Baltimore wouldn't void. It was about a stadium, right?
Oh, slow down with the follow-up questions.
Okay.
So we just have to Google it.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
It's because they wouldn't build
I
a
mean, it's
stadium.
kind of gangster, though.
I mean,
It's a flex, for sure.
It's a flex.
easy saying that in Baltimore.
Yeah.
People are very, very. But yeah, I've never really, quite honestly. I mean, obviously, I don't connect anyway, but I never really connected with the Ravens because, like you had a very small window to get into my heart as any type of sports anything, and the Ravens missed it.
That was a real small window.
Like I like the Orioles.
Okay.
Yeah, I do like the Orioles.
You have an Orioles cap?
I do. I do. I have a couple.
I'm surprised by that.
Yeah, I don't wear it, but
That's baseball.
that's baseball.
Oh, see? I know my sports.
You go. There you go, Lynn.
Very athletic.
It's the sports ball mission.
It is a sports ball mission. I'm here for all the.
Yay, our team.
Back and
Who's their
forth.
team? Do we have any letters or something?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Let's move on and get into your emails, or as we like to call them.
Missives from the missionaries. So what else is going on, Lynn?
We have emails, Vincent.
Ooh, missives from the missionaries. Missives from the missionaries.
Missives from the missionaries. Erika, Vincent, we have an email from Eric Bray.
Hey, what's up, Eric?
Hey there, men of Micheaux. In addition to Vincent's underwhelmed regard for the narcoleptic mumblings known as 50 Cent's rap game,
Yes.
I also shared his limited interest in most sports.
Oh, see? Here you go, Lynn. It's a continuation of sports ball talk.
Yay.
Having said that, congratulations are in order for the Eagles Super Bowl victory.
That's right. Go Birds.
If I had a reason to root for one team this year, it was to cheer on the one from the same town as my favorite podcaster.
Oh, thank you, Eric.
It's probably for the best, too, since I've heard rumors about fans from Philly. You wouldn't like them when they're angry.
We booed Santa Claus and Beyonce.
That's
Tough town. It's a tough town.
very true. But speaking of the Super Bowl, did either of you see at least the halftime
Oh,
show?
of course.
Kendrick Lamar. What did you think of it?
Oh, I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah?
I thought it was absolutely brilliant. I think he told a whole entire story on the field that I think I'm glad that I watched it afterwards so I could really understand and see all of it because I didn't watch it live because I didn't watch the game. But watching it and being able to see all of the clips and then all the hot takes that are on social media, you really like every time you kind of uncover another layer of what he was saying, and the fact that he was able to do it in front of the president we have now, it's dope.
Yeah, ditto. Just so many moments, and people are going to be talking and teaching this as a text going forward.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you want to talk about a flex.
Yeah.
That was a flex and a half.
Yeah.
Eric continues, I also wanted to express my gratitude for Belinda Silber's email in your most recent episode concerning the 1936 film, The Petrified Forest. I watched it a couple of times myself and was similarly struck by the characterization of Slim. Her remarks are spot on. Other than Humphrey Bogart, he has more lines than the rest of his crew and seems to be higher in the pecking order. If anything, he acts as a sort of consigliere to Bogart, often advising that the gang clear out before it's too late. Counsel they would have been wise to have heeded in hindsight. Well, that's true. I also agree with Len that the scene where he mocks the chauffeur for looking to his boss for permission to eat was surprising. He more or less tells the hostage to get with the times in a line that could have been written 30 years later. The movie was actually filmed a couple of years after the Hays Code was put in place, but even post-code movies of the 30s had a slightly modern slant that seems to be missing in films from subsequent decades. Maybe if I spent less headspace on geeky trivia like that, I'd have more time for sports. Thanks, Eric Bray.
Yeah, you all are really talking up this movie.
It's a very interesting film.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you, Eric.
Thank you very much for your email, Eric. Appreciate that. We have an email from Nick Nicholas.
Hey, what's up, Nick?
Good evening, Len, Vincent, missionaries, and special guest.
That's you.
This past week was my birthday, and it was a great day for me. My birthday is iconic since I share it with the incomparable Jay Dilla. Rest in peace.
Nice.
For the month of February, it is both Love Month and Black History Month. So to kick off this month of love, I watched Love Jones.
Okay.
I kind of want to do a series on black movies and their soundtracks. Which is better, the soundtrack or the movie? To kick this off, I chose Love Jones. When you think of Love Jones, which do you think of first, the soundtrack or the movie? Your criteria can be the impact, the stars, the highlights. Would love to hear your thoughts. Nick, when I think of Love Jones, I do think of the movie first. Mm-hmm. But I will say it is one of the few films that when I think of the movie, I do think of like the soundtrack, like almost as like in conjunction with the film. Like I'm thinking of scenes where the music is playing over the scenes. So I think of the movie first, but the soundtrack is amazing. Mm-hmm. The soundtrack is actually amazing. And whether or not you could play that game with a lot of black films,
you can.
Whether or not the soundtrack of the movie, one of the movies that is iconic for people, we argued, is actually more iconic for the soundtrack than the actual film when you watch it, and that's Superfly.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I would say Boomerang too. I think Boomerang is a really good soundtrack.
It's a great soundtrack. Do you think it surpasses the movie?
I don't know if it surpasses the movie, but I think of them almost
in conjunction.
Yeah. Whereas Love Jones, I don't. But I do think of that one song. I only think of one song from Love Jones, and that's the song with the penny with the hole in it.
Mm-hmm. The Unfair song.
Yes, that one. And that's the only song I could tell you from Love Jones, actually. But that's what I think of as soon as you said it. But other than that, Boomerang, like, it makes you think of Toni Braxton, Love Should Have Brought You Home Last Night. Like, that's the first thing that comes to my head. And then all the rest of the songs, because the whole soundtrack is pretty dope.
I will say you're right, because there's a lot of needle drops in there. Mm-hmm. Like, cause I'm thinking, when I think of PM Dawn's song, I'm thinking of that moment in Boomerang. So, yeah, that's a very good one.
I agree with both of you. I have nothing to add.
All right. So thank you, Nick. Thank you for your email.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. We have an email from Michael Lockett.
Hey, what's up, Michael?
What's up, my brothers? I hope this week what's going well and the wilding out of Eagles fans has not left you and yours with any damaged property. Well, I didn't damage the mic, so we're good.
Right.
I'm not sure if Vince realizes how into sports Philly fans are, but anytime a fan base is putting batteries and snowballs to throw at Santa Claus during the Eagles-Giants game, I believe that was in the mid-'80s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Infamous.
I'm going to move on down, Michael, before you...
Yeah. And Michael, I am aware. I said it before we started taping. You have to keep up with sports in Philadelphia. It's like checking the weather.
You do.
Like you know, because the city has a palpable feel when we win or lose. So you need to know before you leave the house what you're headed into.
That's true. That said, Michael continues, I respect the love you have for your teams. Moonwalker took me by surprise, the Michael Jackson film that we reviewed last week. Are you a fan of?
I am, and I will like to say, I'll let you finish that email, but I was very disappointed in how you talked about Moonwalker. I felt like you just dogged it.
She wasn't mad. She was disappointed.
I was strong feeling.
Well, let's put a pin on that. Let's put a pin in that.
I wrote an email so you could read it while I was sitting here, but I decided to just wait.
It's snowing. Maybe you can go get a battery and put in a snowball.
See, I don't know about that story, but I feel like I have so much to Google now.
The Micheaux mission. You'll have so much to Google.
Well, if you brought your sticky notes, and you can be like a sticky note.
I actually probably do have some sticky notes.
There you go.
At all times.
Okay.
Michael says, Moonwalker took me by surprise. I had not seen this prior, and from time to time, I get nostalgic for Michael Jackson's music and his videos. As odd as some things might be, this is undeniably one of the most creative projects from a musician-entertainer we've had. Without this, I believe we do not have Lemonade by Beyonce. Oh. It's odd in some places in retrospect, but I feel it is because we are looking at MJ through the lens of 2025. During my time travels, I first landed with you two on Sprung. Unfortunately, this is a bad day at work for Rusty Kundif, as well as Tisha Campbell, Paula J. Parker, and Joe Torre. Given Rusty's other work, I like to think there were some other factors that made this as bland and predictable as it was. I believe that if his other films had been bigger successes, this failure would not have sunk his film work for the most part. Black people should be allowed to fail just like their counterparts. I then landed in the 60s with All Night Long. It's a cool movie in every way, and anytime we get anybody that was in Truck Turner, I'm here for it. I'm not feeling it as a black movie, however. I never felt Shakespeare's gaze and creation of characters outside of white people was good at all. Each of these films really is indelibly a microcosm of their time period in history. Do you two think there are actors who could have successfully navigated the changing styles and had real success from the 60s to the present? In my opinion, I would say Denzel, born in 54, Alfred Woodard, born in 52, Angela Bassett, 58, and Dennis Haysbert, born also in 1954, could have done it. Anybody else who not only could have gotten in the barely cracked door, but remained relevant and grew in the craft. All the best, Michael Luckett.
Thank you, Michael.
Appreciate your email, Michael. And just to answer this question before we take on the topic of Moonwalker, in regards to actors that I think could have maybe stood the test, like if they
worked during this moment, that moment in the past.
Working it during this moment, it could have worked in the past. That's the question, right?
Right.
I think, all the people that he mentioned, there may be a little bit of a weird fit, but I think Delroy Lindo.
Maybe. Delroy Lindo, I think his look is a little...
polarizing for
too
that time.
Africanized,
for that time,
for that moment.
Yeah, that's a good point. And this may be his name, Yahya Abdul-Mateen. I think he has a look that I think he could have played in that time.
Here's the problem with Yahya Abdul-Mateen, or the challenge I think he would have that he mentioned Dennis Haysbert, and I think Dennis Haysbert and quietly Denzel run up against this. Like, they're right. They're like, I think the sexualized black man is having a real hard time in the 50s. Like, I think Sidney Poitier and Harry Belafonte were able to kind of navigate that space just barely.
Mm-hmm.
Quite honestly, I feel like Denzel, and maybe it's sort of a chicken and the egg thing, just because we've only seen him in modern times. Like, I don't know if he could dial it back enough to work in that space, but I'll go along with it. And Dennis Haysbert, I just feel like Dennis Haysbert is too tall, too dark.
I was going to say,
and
too
his
tall.
voice is too deep. Like I know he cuts off that facial hair sometimes, and that got him a little extra mileage lately. And Yahya Abdul-Mateen, I don't know how much Yahya Abdul-Mateen is working in 1961 as a lead.
I think he could.
Oh,
I think he could.
that's a lot of man.
Yeah, but I think he could. I think he could. To your point, I think he could dial it back.
All right.
You know what I mean? And I think he's not like Aldous Hodge. Aldous Hodge, that's a lot of man.
Yeah.
Aldous Hodge just he's just bumps all over the place.
Yeah.
You know, he's just like.
And that. It's nice to. It's fine. Yeah. Fine actor.
On the other side, I feel like Zendaya.
I didn't know you were coming to mumble. You just like,
no. Yeah. I'm just saying, he's a fine actor. Just appreciating his artistic ways.
Yes, very artistic.
Mm-hmm. Strong.
I think Zendaya would have had a nice career.
Really?
Yeah. She'd have been right in that pocket. She'd have been right in that pocket. Absolutely.
I don't know. I don't know about Zendaya.
Kerry Washington.
I think
Carrie
that's
Washington,
a good one.
I think, would have done a lot.
I think Kerry Washington's a good one.
And then
really
Megan Good's man, what's his name? The dude that they always
Who, Jonathan
tease?
Majors?
Yes, him.
No,
You
not
don't
with that.
think so?
Not with that negroid nose. That nose. That
I mean,
nose.
he could have played, leading. I think maybe not, but he certainly could have played.
If Jonathan Majors,
I got two words: Brock Peters.
Well, see, I think Dennis Haysbert fits into the Brock Peters lane if he goes back there. I think, to your point, Jonathan Majors, if he's back in the 50s, I think he does work, but I think he's in the lane of Woody Strode.
Right, which is not working that much at all.
Yeah, but he was Sergeant Rutledge.
Yeah, Jonathan Majors, them lips and that nose is too much of the continent in that. They ain't put
a couple slave movies.
Yeah, well, I don't know how much
Gone with the Wind.
MGM and Century. Right, exactly. Over on the side. And he can't be in the scene with Vivian Lee.
No, he can't.
Right.
No.
Frankly, Red, I don't give a damn. Come here, Jonathan. Anyway.
Right. And then Dennis Haysbert's come in. You need something, Miss Scarlett? Dennis Haysbert. Yeah, cut.
Yes, all right.
I just came in from busing the Chifferow. Does anyone need anything else from me before I retire to the quarters?
All these stairs.
Right.
What am I going to do with all these stairs? Don't you worry about that, Miss Scarlett.
I'll take care of it for you, Miss Scarlett. Brett, I'll see you later this evening. Yeah.
I don't give a damn if you come home.
Right.
Well,
Big old burly, deep chest man. Have him somewhere with Doris Day. Yeah,
not Doris Day.
yeah.
Just rock on the door like, Doris.
Right.
Doris.
Ooh, que sera, sera.
Que sera.
Ooh, whatever will be, will be. The future is ours to see.
Que sera, sera.
All right.
But Michael Jackson.
Yes.
Yes.
Moonwalker, which we reviewed last week, polarizing reviews. I did not enjoy the film. Vincent thought it was one for the ages.
So something in particular you said, you weren't sure what the demographic was
For the film.
for the film.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say I was the demographic for the film when it came out. Mind you, it was 1989, so I was 9. And
Okay.
so I had this on VHS. I watched it incessantly. I watched it so much. And I will also say I have not seen it since probably the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So it brought back a lot of memories just you talking about it, because there are things I didn't even remember. And I haven't
Like
seen
going in
it.
the cave.
Yes, like going in the cave. I don't know if I remembered that. And I know I probably fast forward and rewinded. And I really loved, Smooth Criminal, because that was a really good part. But I also love Speed Demon and the Rabbit and all of that. All of that was just great. Like, I watched it incessantly. And so I do think that Moonwalker was meant partially for children a little bit, in that way that, he was, it was family friendly sort of situation, but it was, I guess, probably really innovative at the time, to do what he did. And I was a big fan, of Michael Jackson. So yeah, I love, that was probably one of the top 5, like, memories of my childhood, was having that VHS, because it was probably the first VHS that was mine, and that I could just watch whenever I wanted to. And so yeah, I loved it. And so to hear you rag on it the way that you did was difficult. It really was difficult, but I understand you have views and opinions, but I wish they would have been different. I just really wish they would have been different, because I just didn't understand how you just didn't see what it was. And the remake of The Bad with the kids, I loved it. Oh my goodness. I think that little boy, whatever his name was my little boyfriend in my mind.
That
when
was
I
adorable.
9.
That was absolutely adorable. And I don't have any.
I thought it was strange.
I thought it was cute.
Okay.
It was cute. It's cute. That was absolutely adorable. And I really don't have any problem with the music videos that were in there. I love Smooth Criminal. Speed Demon is not for me, but I got what it was in the time, and Leave Me Alone, that is innovative as hell, right? So I love the music videos. It's everything around it, and let me tell you, you're not the only one, because I, had to go to a family get together this past weekend. And as I walked into the
Shamed when you went.
my 2 sisters had a definite problem. Like, hey, Len, hi, good to see you. Good to see you. So what's your problem with Michael Jackson?
That's right.
Well, you're talking about Michael Jackson walking around with little girls. He was protecting her little girl. I was like, he was not protect. I don't know what you were watching.
I think he was taking her with him to go investigate the noise in the cave.
Exactly.
Which sounds like a terrible idea.
Yes.
I mean, in hindsight, with all of the things that happened with Michael Jackson in later years, maybe. But at the time, it just felt like,
it was a 40-something-year-old man walking around with a
Michael Jackson didn't have an age, He was just Michael Jackson. He never really.
He clearly had an age, though.
It didn't feel like he had an age.
He didn't think he had an age.
True, there was that. But I
don't let his
I loved
inexperience
it.
with a soccer ball fool you.
Well, that was that part. So I didn't remember it, but after you said it, then I did remember that was a little odd. But I didn't know nothing about soccer at the time either. I was a little girl, grew up in Detroit, on the west side. So I didn't know if I had even seen a soccer ball, to be honest with you. So I might not have known what to do with it either.
Well, neither did Michael Jackson.
Yeah. So see how it was for me.
There you go. There you go. Michael Jackson doesn't understand soccer. I don't understand soccer. We have so much in common.
So much.
Wow. There you go. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. And, that's all I can say. God bless you. All right. We have one last email.
Okay.
Unless you had anything else you wanted to say
No,
about Moonwalker.
I have said my piece.
You said your piece?
I've said my piece.
And we're good.
Yes.
All right.
We are still friends.
Nice. We have one last email. And this is from returning emailer Michael Sykes.
Hey, Michael.
Off of probation. Hello, Len and Vincent. Hope you had a great holiday. It's been a while. I've been watching Mannix.
Oh, nice.
And In the Heat of the Night.
Nice.
Both great cop shows. And I have listened to your podcast episode on the 1973 film Coffee, starring Pam Grier.
That's right.
I was surprised y'all really didn't talk about the death of King George. Although King George is a pimp,
that's right.
His death always leaves me sick, sad, and very angry.
It's a whole song about it.
His death reminds me a lot of James Byrd Jr.'s death in Jasper, Texas, 1998, and Brandon McKellen's in Paris, Texas, in 2008, whom both had similar deaths like King George, whom was dragged to death. I'm not comparing them to King George, just their deaths. There are probably many African Americans whom probably have been dragged, but we know nothing about them. Coffee is a good movie, but due to that scene, I've only watched it 2 times in my entire life. What are your thoughts on King George's death? P.S. I don't know how Vincent felt about Anne Marie Johnson's character in the TV show In the Heat of the Night, but to me, she was a real nagging, nosy woman. Love, your fan, Michael Sykes. So what are your thoughts on King George's death in Coffee, Vincent?
You know, Michael actually isn't the first person to ask us about that. Someone else has asked us about that dragon. And I have to say, I think King George was such a ridiculous character. I never really made the connection until somebody wrote us about it.
Yeah.
Because, again, he's so ridiculous.
So over the top.
And everything about him was, I think
he stands out in that movie because of it.
Right. He had on like a unitard with his nipples out. And but it's sad. I mean, like, I don't really know how to address that because King George is ridiculous.
He was.
And he was obviously going to die because he was a bad guy.
Exactly.
In Coffee.
So there you go. You've addressed it.
Yeah.
What about Anne Marie Johnson's character in The Heat of the Night, which I was not necessarily a fan of the show, so I can't.
So here's the thing about Anne Marie Johnson in The Heat of the Night. And I see Thomas say, because, In the Heat of the Night is one of my, I'm fascinated by the show. Did you watch In the Heat of the Night at all?
A little bit.
Like with your grandmother?
I was going to say with my grandma.
Grandmother?
With my grandma, I watched it. That just started like sweaty black people. Everybody looks so sweaty.
I love television shows that the behind the scenes drama bleeds over onto the show, and they try to kind of fix it and just
fix it in post, and it doesn't work.
Like, for people who don't know, Howard Rollins really was, speaking of these black leading men, he was really the heir apparent to Denzel.
To Denzel, yeah.
And certainly, was this.
And most people know, just real quick, most people probably know him more famously from Soldier Story.
Right, which was his real coming out.
Right.
Like, he had been in movies, but then after Soldier Story, which is, in a lot of ways is In the Heat of the Night riff.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was like, oh, Howard Rollins is going to be. So then when they adapted In the Heat of the Night for television, he seemed perfect to play. And when you watch the first 5 or 6 episodes, he really is set up as the next it guy. Carol O'Connor is basically doing them a solid, playing Chief Gillespie. But Howard Rollins famously had, he struggled with drug addiction. And, I don't think it's talking out of school at this point to say that I think he struggled with his sexuality to a certain degree. And in the 80s, he had these very public sort of things. Like, I think at one point he had went on a bender and was in a dress. And so I always thought they brought Anne Marie Johnson into the show to say, hey, y'all, he's straight. Mm-hmm. Like, it's 1983. I know we don't really want to deal with this stuff. Howard Rollins is sort of going off the rails. Carol O'Connor's character is getting bigger and bigger in the show. Mm-hmm. And Virgil Tibbs, the character he plays, is clearly a heterosexual man. Here is his wife.
Exactly.
And they brought Anne Marie Johnson in, who, I always like I like Anne Marie Johnson, but I don't think she really did much.
She didn't do much for
the show.
Yeah.
But again, like, they kind of brought her in to kind of plug this hole.
And it didn't work.
It didn't work
because his demons were eating at him.
Yeah.
Badly.
Yeah.
And that was a cursed show because his demons ultimately get the better of him, and he
he leaves the show. Yeah, he leaves
back.
and comes back, and eventually they write him out because remember they bring Carl Weathers in at some point because I always say they bring Carl Weathers in as a sheriff and they give him a shirt. And Carl Weathers said, "You got one 2 sizes smaller than this."
Medium.
Right. Like he just busts out the shirt the whole time he's on there. And Carol O'Connor's son was on there, who also had his own, had a drug. And it was, So anyway, I'm fascinated by In the Heat of the Night, the television show, because it is this sort of amazing train wreck that unfolds from episode to episode and season to season.
Yeah, there you go.
But a real shame about Howard Rollins. Like I loved Howard Rollins.
He was an excellent actor.
He really was.
He had it all. He had it all.
Really sad story.
And like you said, it was set up. It was set up for him,
dude.
It was set up for him so much that when he signed the deal for In the Heat of the Night, some people were like, "Oh, dude, like the movies are set up for you. You sure you want to do this television?
Right, but they had set it up like." Again, it was, and we're wrong. He wasn't the heir apparent to Denzel Washington. He was the heir apparent to Sidney Poitier.
Oh, that's right, because he was
Denzel comes after Howard Rollins.
That's right.
Right. Like he really was the guy.
That's right.
And it's just a really sad story.
Yeah.
Yeah, homeboy too. He's from Baltimore. Yeah. So
got caught in the wire.
Don't do that. Don't do that. We're Howard Rollins.
Okay.
We can make Ravens jokes. We can't make Howard Rollins.
Can't make
Howard Rollins jokes. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Well, that's our emails.
Yeah.
If you want to have your thoughts
Michael.
read here, and welcome back, Michael. If you want to have your thoughts read here aloud on the show, you can email us at micheauxmission@gmail.com. That's MICHEAUX MISSION@gmail.com. We're sitting here with Erika Washington of Sticky Note Conversations, a great podcast that she does that talks about well, I'll let you tell the story about what the podcast is about, but I love the origin story in that it started because you just realized you had sticky notes all over the place.
Yeah, there's a small obsession with sticky notes that I have, and I couldn't call it Post-its because, they don't pay me. And we're not
No,
gonna do
that's
that.
right.
So yeah, like I am the executive director of Make It Work Nevada, which is a nonprofit organization. We are a reproductive justice organization that advocates alongside and with Black women around anything and everything that you need in order to live your best life or your version of the American dream, as we like to say. And so that includes affordable childcare, equal pay, paid family leave, access to culturally competent doctors that actually give a crap about how we feel and, don't just blame it on weight or whatever. And so, we work on policy at the state and the federal level. But also my background is journalism. And so I worked for the only Black newspaper in the state of Nevada until it closed, which was in 2014. And that was the Las Vegas Sentinel Voice. And that's how I learned about Nevada and Las Vegas. Like I said, I grew up in Detroit. I moved to Las Vegas in 2008.
What took you to Vegas?
Nothing in particular. Honestly, we just pointed at the map and figured out where we could live. And so my husband at the time and our 3 children moved there in 2008, but he had wanted to move and I didn't want to move, and he suggested Las Vegas, and I was like, who lives in Las Vegas? Like, who does that? It didn't make any sense to me. And a part of that was because I had never been. I had never had a desire to go, and only thing I knew about Las Vegas is where old people went to vacation because my grandparents' friends went to Las Vegas and they brought back ashtrays and stuff like that. And so that was what I knew that's where like lounge acts and that sort of thing. That's all I knew. And so at the time I was a flight attendant. And so
Wow.
I have lived a lot of lives. And so I was a flight attendant. And so we could go out for free. Flew out and we stayed in a hotel on the Strip. And it was one of those, when you do the seminar, so you get a free place to stay.
Oh,
like
whatever.
timeshare.
Timeshare. That's
Yeah.
what we did. And so then we did that. So we had a place to stay, and we took that time to just kind of look around. And we got a real estate agent to show us around and show us where we should live and shouldn't live. And so we did that, and we found a place, and everything looked so shiny and bright out there. Like it really looked new, because Vegas is not an old city,
Right.
number one. And number two, like a lot of the houses were built in that people live in are built in the 90s and the 2000s. So everything coming from Detroit, this just looked shiny. So we got there, and then I couldn't find the black people. Like I had no idea where the black people were. And coming from Detroit, black people were everywhere. Vegas, not so much. And so found a beauty supply store, found black people. And
You go.
I found the newspaper, the Las Vegas Sentinel Voice. And so I decided I wanted to write for this paper. I had been freelancing, random here and there. And so I told a little bit of a fib, as I would say, in front of my grandmother. And because I kept calling and wasn't getting an answer, trying to talk to someone at the Sentinel Voice. And so a friend that I had met after I got in there, I was in like these mommy play groups because my kids were really small. She let me borrow her camera. She had one of those nice DSLR cameras.
Nice.
And she let me borrow it. And so I had reached out to a PR person because there was a show being performed on the Strip. It was a Jacarius Johnson show. I don't even remember the name of it, but Brian McKnight was in it, Vivica Fox, and the girl who plays Charmaine on The Cosby Show. I can't remember her name. And so the short one.
Yeah, I'm looking right at her.
Right.
Because she was also in a different world.
Yes. And so I reached out and I said, I'd love to do a story on this show because these type of shows are never on the Strip. And so she's like, okay, for who? And I said, I'm going to write it for the Las Vegas Sentinel Voice. And so I borrowed this camera. I went down. I took pictures. I interviewed everyone.
So you told them you had the job.
Yeah, I did. I told him. I said, I'm writing this story for Las Vegas Sentinel Voice. And so I went down there. I interviewed Brian McKnight. I interviewed all of the folks, Christian, the other dude there. He's in one of Tyler Perry's shows. I can't think. His name will come to me too. But I interviewed everybody. Like I stayed almost the entire day because I was also a little bit inexperienced in doing this sort of like work. And so I went home and I wrote the story. And then I just went down to Sentinel Voice to the it was a house that was made into an office, and I knocked on the door, and the publisher answered. His name is Ramon Savoy. And I said, here you go. I wrote this story. You should publish it, and you should pay me, and you should hire me. And that was all she wrote. And
That's what I'm
he
talking about.
became one of my favorite people in the world. He's a mentor to me still to this day. And I wrote for the paper until it closed.
Nice.
And so yeah. And so I love journalism. So he introduced me to all of the people that I am now connected to in Vegas. So I wrote stories about these people and followed their careers and realized that Las Vegas and Nevada is a really small place, and it's not out of the ordinary to be able to talk to the attorney general or a senator or what have you, and that's not the same in a lot of places. And so I learned about the history of Las Vegas and how segregated it was, which I didn't know, because you don't have that expectation of a place like Las Vegas because it's not in the South. But it also has the nickname Mississippi of the West. And so because it was so segregated, and so I learned all of this. And so I did this and did some other things until I got involved in doing social justice work. But it came along some years later that I realized that I missed journalism. I really miss interviewing people.
Talking to people.
Yes. And so I wanted to do a podcast, but I had no idea how to do a podcast. I bought a microphone, but I didn't really know what to do. And then I reached out to a friend of mine. His name is Will Black, and I told him I want to do a podcast. And he's like, okay. And he does music and engineering and all this editing. And I'm like, can you help me? He's like, sure. Well, tell me what you want to do. And I'm like, I don't really know. And I said, but I'll get back to you. And so it took me some time to figure it out. And I got back to him and I said, here's the idea. This is what I want to do. And so this is, what was born out of it was Sticky Note Conversations, but also American Dreams, Reproductive Justice, which is more of a docu-style podcast. And so, but yeah, the name Sticky Notes is just because I'm obsessed with writing everything on sticky notes, and I put them on the wall or on my desk. And that's sort of my to-do list, because then I feel accomplished because I can rip it off and throw it away. And I know I actually did something.
Nice.
And so, they're colorful and they come in so many different little textures. They got transparent ones and circle ones. They got the waterproof one. I love a good sticky note.
Nothing like a good sticky note.
Love it.
All right.
But yeah, that's my story. So I have since 2009, probably 2010. That was really the start of my radicalization and my political awakening, I guess, was getting to Las Vegas and realizing that there's so much that we don't know, and we're all just so siloed in all of these different places with all of these same struggles, but we don't get a chance to hear about them or talk about them because we feel like we're the only ones doing whatever it is we're doing, whatever that struggle is. And you realize it's not. And people don't think about that, especially in Las Vegas. Well, one, people don't think about what people do in Las Vegas besides what people come to do in Las Vegas.
Right.
But what do people who live there do, and what have their lives been like? Las Vegas, which is in Clark County, is the 5th largest school district in the whole country.
Wow.
The 5th largest. And so people don't think about that when you don't think about how many children that is. And so, and all of these parents that work, a lot of them in the hospitality industry, that they're so dependent on, everyone having, just play money to come and just have to throw away. If you don't have throwaway money, then you're not coming to Vegas.
That's right.
If you're not coming to Vegas with your throwaway money, then children, aren't going to have what they need. It's, it's an interesting place in which to live and work.
And now that's your home.
It is part-time.
Okay.
Part-time your home. So
It's a part-time at home.
So you split time between that and Detroit? Or?
No, actually, I split my time between Vegas and St. Louis. Actually, that's a whole nother story.
Oh, okay, all right.
That's a whole nother story. But yeah. So I can't call myself bi-coastal because there's no coast on either one of those.
Right.
But yeah, I split my time between the two. That's where I was born, was in St. Louis. And so my uncle's there. And so close to family. And I'll be honest, I missed seeing Black people all the time.
I know that's right.
That I can see them all the time. Whereas in Vegas, you can, but you don't in the same way. And so it's just it's a different vibe.
Sure.
And so I grew up in the Midwest. I always considered myself a very Midwestern, East Coast type of girl. And so I miss seasons too.
No.
Vegas is too sunny.
Well, welcome to the
I was
snow.
about to say, we got something for you.
There's snow outside. Adds a little moisture to your hair. I'm not ashy.
Yeah.
It's a blessing.
Have to stay moisturized.
Look, you do.
Amen. All right. It is now time for us to move on. Thank you for joining us, Erika. We appreciate that. We are going to get into the fun part of the show.
Yes.
Hey.
Starting with the top 5.
Top 5. Who's your top 5? My top 5 is. 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 My top 5 is.
All right, before we get into the top 5, the actress that we were thinking of was Karen Molina White.
Yes.
Plays Charmaine on The Cosby Show. And now it's time for the top 5. Keeping in theme, we are going to be reviewing Wicked tonight, which is derived from the Frank L. Baum's Oz series of books.
Yes.
Specifically from the Wizard of Oz book. And features Cynthia Erivo as the Wicked Witch of the West, or Elphaba. Elphaba. As the witch in that film. So for the top 5, we have the top 5 black witches.
Oh, okay. All right.
Some possibly real witches.
Possibly.
Possibly some for more fictional depictions.
All right.
Starting with number 5, the unsung star of the chilling adventures of Sabrina.
Oh,
would be
yeah.
Prudence Knight Blackwood, played by Tatiana Gabrielle. Her portrayal of the young cradle witch Prudence. Actually, she was supposed to just be a bully and an adversary for Sabrina on the show, and just a simple recurring character. However, she became one of the more interesting characters in this series, inspiring young black women to cosplay her Salem witch goth schoolgirl look. She actually, in my opinion, I didn't watch all the seasons of Sabrina, but I did watch like the first season. She damn near stole the show.
She 100% stole the show, and I don't know why they didn't have a spinoff, because at one point, spoiler, she and Sabrina's black cousin started dating, and I was like, oh, well, clearly they need to run off and have black witch warlock adventures.
Yeah, I think Sabrina kind of like it.
It kind of
shot its little real
crawled up its own behind, and
as some of the things
they do. But yeah, she was fantastic.
Yeah, that was actually good. Did
you watch Sabrina? Chilling, not bad.
I never seen. I remember the white girl Sabrina.
Oh no, this is a white girl.
This is a white girl,
but this is like it was like a horror retelling of the Sabrina thing. So not like the jokey show.
Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
It is
Sabrina. If you remember,
but they reimagined it as a horror series.
Remember a few years ago when the CW did the show Riverdale, which was kind of like this
Archie
90210 of
but
Archie.
Serious Archie.
So based on the success of that, they went to the well again for Sabrina.
Oh, I missed that.
But had it more of a horror bent. And the other beautiful part about it is that it was on Netflix. So it could be like really lean into it a little bit more, that horror and that more eeriness to it, even though I think they ultimately did a crossover with Riverdale. But it was actually very good. But I think two things hurt it. One, as much as it leaned in because of Netflix, it still was kind of like set in that Riverdale world. So that tone sometimes would fall into it. And two, because Riverdale was on network television, it was in that cycle of we're creating shows every season. And I think Sabrina fell into that trap as opposed to taking advantage of the what streaming gives you is that option to like go away for a year, really recharge your batteries, and really cook and make sure that story is tight and the best story around. And I think they just, at the time that came out, they didn't take full advantage of that. So I think they shot their load too quick.
Yeah.
But it was good.
I don't like horror things.
Okay.
You don't like horror?
I don't like horror at all.
Oh, then you wouldn't have liked this.
I don't. I think it's scary enough to be black in America. I don't really need to go looking for things to scare me. It's unnecessary.
That's fair.
Speaking of being scary to be black in America, at number 4, we had the character of Letitia Lewis, also known as Letty, played by Journey Smollett from Lovecraft Country. Letitia may have been stubborn, but she was brave and had many memorable scenes in that HBO series, which tragically was only one season. Among them, Letty taking a bat to the cars of her racist neighbors in the 1950s Chicago. The scene where she stood in a prayer circle to free the trapped spirits of black folks unethically experimented on and killed by a racist white scientist. And probably one of the best scenes ever, Letty stripped this sinister Christine and all other white people of magic forever, locking magic in the hands of black people going forward. Lovecraft Country was phenomenal, groundbreaking, incredible storytelling, incredible acting, and Jurnee Smollett, an actress who we have heralded many times here on the mission, but this is some of her best work.
Absolutely.
And
I did love that one though. I did watch that,
Okay.
but I had to brace myself with it because it was gory, and
It was
there was gory part, and I really struggled with that because I just don't like gory. But I did like what they were doing, and I think because it was historical, and I
Yes.
think that's what drew me
I love
into
it.
it.
Yeah.
And I was also just such a fan of Michael K. Williams. Like
Sure, of course.
I loved Michael K. Williams, so anything he was in, I was going to give a try. So
And I love that movie kind of like that movie series allowed him an opportunity to really play against type a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
So good. Oh, that was great. All right. Number three.
Number three.
Number three, we have two witches actually tied
Okay.
for number three. Moselle and Elzora from Eve's Bayou.
I know that is right.
another favorite
Mm.
with Journey.
Yes. Moselle Baptiste Delacroix,
Yes, sir.
played by Debbie Morgan.
Yes,
And
Lord.
the powerful Elzora, played by Diane Carroll.
That's right.
Eve's Bayou gently teases the supernatural, but is remarkably accurate when it comes to its approach to root work. In the film, the term voodoo is inaccurately used, but I've also seen that as being due to the story being from the perspective of a 10-year-old girl. And actress Debbie Morgan lends a quiet strength and fierce empathy to her character. And Diane Carroll, well, what can be said of Diane Carroll in one of probably the last great roles of her career, who doesn't have a whole lot of line, doesn't have an incredibly whole lot of scenes. But man,
I don't need no cat bones to tell your fortune,
Mm-hmm.
Moselle Baptiste. It is death. You are the Black Widow.
That movie is just that's like top five like black movie, just movie
100%.
period. Like it's just I can watch it at any time.
yeah.
At any time, and it's so deep. And then watching it later in life, also just really trying to understand like what really happened with the older daughter. Like it feels so confusing all the time. And then big fan of Debbie Morgan. I actually got to interview her years and years ago.
Yeah?
Yes.
How was that?
It was amazing. It was amazing.
She said, let's eat pomegranates till the juice runs down, gets in our fingers. Oh, I love Moselle. I love Eve's Bayou is like top 3 favorite movies all time. Ugh.
Number two.
I'll say I don't know who's above them two.
Well, number two, now we move into the historic
Okay.
witches.
I know.
And at number two, we have Tituba.
Okay. All right.
One of
Fair.
the most iconic
Fair.
figures linked
Fair.
to the Salem witch trials, occupies a complex space in history. Enslaved and brought from Barbados, Tituba's alleged involvement began when 2 young girls accused her of practicing witchcraft. Her vivid confession, likely a blend of African, Native American, and Caribbean spiritual practices, captivated Puritan society and ignited a deadly hysteria. Though often portrayed through stereotypes, Tituba has emerged in contemporary culture as a symbol of resilience. Her story speaks to the survival and adaptability of marginalized voices, challenging us to reflect on social forces that villainized her and other Black women. However, Stacy Schiff wrote for the Smithsonian Magazine that described as an Indian no fewer than 15 times in the court papers, Tituba's legend would go on to shift shape over time. Scholars have noted Tituba evolved over 2 centuries from Indian to half black to black, with assists from Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, historian George Bancroft, and William Carlos Williams. And by the time Arthur Miller wrote The Crucible in 1952, Tituba was at that point seen as a Negro slave. So just saying that some ambiguity to her actual heritage, but definitely a story from historic fiction in regards to not fiction, from history,
Right.
of the Salem witch trials. And you're familiar with the story of Tituba.
I am. Fascinating story. Absolutely fascinating. You covered, yeah. Witches in general in history, where it's like, is this a witch or is this just a powerful woman?
Which is almost always what it is.
Right, and then you kind of fold race onto it.
Don't get me started. All right.
But then, of course, number one was, speaking of the Super Bowl, I know who number one is. Super Bowl because it was in New Orleans. Go.
Yes. Yes. That would be Marie Laveau,
That's right.
Voodoo Queen of New Orleans. Marie Laveau stands as an enduring symbol of mystical power and community influence. Born into a Creole family, Laveau lived between 2 worlds, practicing Catholicism while serving as a leading figure in voodoo. Known as the Voodoo Queen, Laveau's work as a healer and spiritual guide earned her a lasting reputation. Her influence spanned New Orleans' social spectrum, drawing both enslaved Africans seeking liberation and white patrons hoping for protection or favors. Today, she remains a powerful figure in the cultural and spiritual fabric of New Orleans, celebrated as an icon of resistance and community strength, and was famously played by Angela Bassett.
Yeah, in American Horror.
American Horror, yeah.
I didn't watch that. That was too scary for me.
No, I didn't.
Erica.
I certainly didn't see it.
no.
I've never seen that, or like Black Mirror or any of those. So
Oh, well, Black Mirror is horror.
That's sci-fi.
It can get scary.
it looks scary.
It can be scary.
Look, the previews look scary, and that was enough for me. But I've also never seen
I like
American
the cut
Horror.
of your jib.
Look, I take what I see. I have to judge the book by the cover.
I know that's right.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm not gonna be up all night.
I know that's right. I ain't mad at you.
So Marie Laveau, Voodoo Queen of New Orleans, number one. Black
Excellent
witch.
number one.
There could have been no other.
No other.
None other. All right. So you're fine with that list, Vincent?
It's a good list.
Always got to check with him.
Yeah. Good list.
All right. Very good. All right. Are you okay with that list?
It seems fine to me.
Thank you.
I mean, again, I love East Bayou, so yay, there.
All right.
All right.
Then we are now going to move into the game of kings. That would be 6 Degrees of D'Urville Martin. Six Degrees of D'Urville Martin, where I come up with 2 actors, and Vincent and his lifeline, Erika Washington of Sticky Note Conversations,
All right.
have 6 films or less to connect them to that 70s warlock,
Oh, yeah.
D'Urville Martin.
Mr. Black Magic himself.
All right, keeping it in theme,
Okay.
Vincent, these are 2 actors that have in film played witches,
Oh, okay.
much like Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande
Okay,
in Wicked, which we will be reviewing in just a moment.
All right. Okay. All right.
Right.
All right.
You have your lifeline, Erika, here.
Okay. All right.
So, in 6 films or less, connect D'Urville Martin,
2.
Sarah Jessica Parker,
Oh, she did play a witch
did play a witch.
in what was the name of it?
If I name it, you can't use it.
I'm not going to use it because
Okay,
I know
that's fair.
where I'm going with her. Go ahead.
Hocus Pocus.
She sure was in Hocus Pocus.
And Hocus Pocus 2.
Okay. You want to take a shot or you want me to take it?
Oh no, I can't do that. I mean, I can only think of like 80. Well, she was in some 80s movies, but I can't remember
Famously
the
starred on
name.
Square Pegs on television. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I can really think
Right.
of.
Well,
from
well, you know her
80s.
from Sex in the City.
Well, yes.
And
like,
then
I
there
know
were
who
2
she
Sex in the
is.
City movies.
Oh, I guess you can use those.
Absolutely, because Sarah Jessica Parker was in Sex and the City with Jennifer
They're so sorry.
Jennifer
We're from
Hudson.
Black people.
Yeah,
That's the only
Jennifer
black
Hudson.
one.
Yeah, and Jennifer Hudson was in Dreamgirls with Eddie Murphy. And then, of course, Eddie Murphy would have been in...
Boomerang.
No. Yes. Boomerang with Leonard Jackson. And then Leonard Jackson, remember, because Leonard Jackson was when Strange threw the panties at him. And then he stormed out the room.
With the panties.
And he took them with him.
No. Jeffrey Holder.
Oh, that-
Jeffrey
oh,
Holder
that's
put the
right.
panties in.
Yes.
He said,
Yeah, he was like, Yes.
But Leonard Jackson rushed out the
Yes.
room because he was
appalled.
he was the chemist, and she said, "This is sex," and she took her panties off and rubbed it across his face, and he was like, "I ain't go to chemistry school for this," and he stormed out, and then Eddie Murphy came out and tickled him. He said, "Marcus, you devil!" But Leonard Jackson was also in Five on the Black Hand Side with Derville Martin.
Very good, Vincent.
Very good.
There you go.
Very good. That is how the game is played. All right, Vincent.
Because remember, the Sex and the City movies, they had been complaining for so long that it was no black people on Sex and the City, which I never understood.
They didn't need
like Sex and the City are like girls, and they talk about ain't no black people. And like, why would black people want to hang around these people? Of course, ain't no black people on there. But I'm sorry. So then they stuffed all these black people in it.
Well, and it was Jennifer Hudson's worst role because she was Louise from St. Louis. It was awful. And she was renting bags. It was so awful. It was so awful.
I am a fan of Jennifer Hudson, but I have to correct you a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
That's not her worst role. Her worst role was playing a nun in the Three Stooges movie.
Oh, I didn't even see that. That's unnecessary.
It's okay. No one on earth saw it except Lynn.
I didn't even know it existed, actually.
No one knew it. I didn't know it existed. I'm not really sure it exists.
It does.
I don't know that I love her acting so much. It doesn't feel, it feels contrived maybe. I don't know. It feels she's trying too hard or something to be like sort of country ghetto or something, and it just doesn't feel right. And so
I agree.
I think she's a good personality. I've never actually seen her talk show, but you know the Spirit line is great, and so
kids seem to love it.
And so I think that's a better route for her. She's a good singer.
Well,
I will say the Aretha Franklin movie was good.
I didn't see
I
that.
still haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it?
No, speaking of Cynthia Erivo,
My
I saw
goodness.
Cynthia Erivo's, which I thought
That
was,
one I didn't see,
I thought it was surprisingly good.
and I was on the fence about seeing it because it didn't feel like it
It
would
was
fit.
surprisingly good.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Heard
I
that.
guess I'll watch it.
Yeah, but who else is a witch besides Sarah Jessica Parker? Who that's quite a pull right there.
Well, here's another one. Hopefully, see if this is a little bit more challenging. In 6 films or less, connect Derville Martin to
Two.
Mila Kunis.
That's the girl from that 70s show?
Yeah. What was she a witch in?
Okay, because you won't be able to use this. She played in this film titled Theodora, the Wicked Witch of the West, in Oz the Great and Powerful.
Oh, all right. Because I only know her. No, I know her in a couple of movies, but the easiest one would, of course.
I know which one you're going to.
I mean, of course, because we've talked about her on here. She was actually pretty good in it.
She's actually very good.
Yeah, she's actually pretty good in it. But yeah, Derville Martin, Five on the Black Hand Side, with Dick Anthony Williams, who's in Mo Better Blues, with Denzel Washington, who is, of course, in the Book of Eli.
With Mila Kunis.
With Mila Kunis.
Very good.
Yeah. Yeah, I was trying. What could I?
See,
Was she in something with Justin Timberlake?
I mean, probably, but I don't know all like her movies. The movie I was actually thinking in, she was in the first one, was it?
Oh, she was also in Ted with Marky Mark.
She was in Ted.
Yeah.
She was in Ted.
So I could use Marky Mark.
I know you love Ted.
Love is strong, but Ted entertains me much. I'm a little ashamed by how much Ted entertains me.
Yeah.
Like Ted 2, Ted the television show.
I know. You just, for some reason.
I know. It's really lowbrow, but it does.
Hidden facts.
Yeah.
I actually thought that she wasn't bad, and I wanted to look it up to make sure this was the film. The Spy Who Dumped Me with Kate McKinnon.
I never saw that.
It's not a great movie, but they had good chemistry.
Yeah.
So I like that. I'm a sucker for like a movie where women are able to just be their free, funny self.
Sure.
I like that. All right. Well, very good, Vincent.
All right.
Well done. You did not even have to tap your lifeline.
I wouldn't have been much help on
Moral
that one,
support.
especially on the second one. But yeah, I'm here to rally.
Yeah. See.
Very good.
Woo!
Go team.
Right. I do the wave. Very dignified wave.
You said you were like a airline attendant.
A flight attendant.
A
Yes.
flight attendant. That's what I saw right there. It was like,
Yeah. Oh. Well, that's you got to do the two fingers.
Can I ask you something
Sure.
about being a flight attendant? I know we gotta go.
I'm here.
We were just talking about this. Wow, who was I talking about this with? Whenever there's turbulence,
you asked
and
me.
we were talking about, and we look to the flight attendants to see if everything is cool. And if the flight attendants are cool, then you feel like you're. Do they train y'all not to freak out?
No, I don't know. Not for real. But I did notice that people would look at me. So
Right.
it's a matter of you don't want freaked out passengers.
Right.
So keep a stern face. And
Okay.
So it's and it's easy for me. Like I think I have a naturally just like resting face that isn't overly friendly.
Right,
So
right.
when people would look, I would just be like,
Right.
and I would just
Everything
keep
is
calm.
cool, right? So Lord, help me, Jesus, please help me, Jesus,
You're like, oh no,
Jesus, which would like freak out.
That would,
passengers.
and that's what you don't have time
No.
for. You don't have time for because passengers already. One of the things we used to say is they check their brains with their baggage sometimes.
Right,
So
right.
people get all like really strange, and so yeah, it's. I have stories. I have stories.
Okay,
Yeah.
but I did wonder if that was actually part of it because it seems like something that
It's not.
that y'all do so well.
Yeah, I mean, because you have to, but also a lot of times turbulence, it really isn't a thing, right? It
Right.
doesn't
Yeah.
mean much, because flights can be bumpy and it's just you're going through the clouds or whatever. And so, and I've been in some really, really bad turbulence where the coffee is coming out the pod and things are swishing around and you're sitting there where there is some feeling of something, but at that time we're just supposed to go through all of the steps of like what are we supposed to do if something were to happen. Like there's steps of like what you ask this passenger to do, what this passenger do, like you're paying attention to a lot of things, and so you keep your concentration on that and you're not thinking about anything else.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you.
So happy to help.
Good to know.
I mean, it's been a long time, but I'm still on a lot of flights.
Sure.
Sure.
Do you ever like when you're on the flights, kind of like rate the flight attendants that are on there?
Do I? Yeah. Yeah. I'm very judgmental.
Yeah.
Yeah, because times have really changed. Because even when I was a flight attendant, which was in the early 2000s, up until I went on maternity leave with my youngest, who is now 17. So it's been a lot of years since I was a flight attendant. But even then they talked about how, because it was all about appearance and how you look. Like being a flight attendant was really all about how you look, like hair pent up. And, at one point you couldn't weigh too much and all of that. And that wasn't a thing, when I was a flight attendant because, laws have changed. But it was still very much
The culture.
Yes, you have to present yourself in a certain kind of way. And so I see some FAs now and I'm like,
Time
look
to
at
change.
you. Look at you. not even combing your hair good type of thing. That's what I start to feel like my grandma a little bit. But yeah, people are a little sloppier than they used to be, and it feels more like a fast food job sometimes that you see as opposed to fine dining when you go out. There's a big difference when you go to a 5-star restaurant with 5 dollar signs next to it, as opposed to going to Applebee's.
Yeah.
And so that's sometimes what I think it feels like, even if you're sitting in first class, and it's a little bit of a shame.
Yeah, I did notice that the last time I took a flight, that like there was not even like a uniform like regularity to how they dressed.
Yeah, sometimes. So I do judge them.
I just need you to hand me the can of ginger ale when you pour my ginger ale, because I'm a grown adult man and I want a whole can of soda.
Well, they try to make it stretch so that
like you hand me that little cup with this, and then like, can I have
But
the
if
rest?
you ask, you'll usually get it.
I know, but then now it's this energy. Like suddenly I'm
Greedy.
You're right. Like I'm greedy because as an adult man, I want an entire can of ginger ale.
Okay.
I always gave people the whole can.
Good for you.
All right, let's get into our review of Wicked.
Woo! Excited. The wave again. We're ready.
Wicked.
Woo!
A 2024 American music fantasy directed by John Chu and written by Winnie Holzman and Dana Fox. It is the first installment of a 2-part film adaptation of the stage musical of the same name by Stephen Schwartz, which was loosely based on Gregory Maguire's 1995 novel, a reimagining of the Oz books in the 1939 film The Wizard of Oz. The film covers the musical's first act. It stars Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba Throp and Ariana Grande as Glinda Upland, with Michelle Yeoh, Peter Dinklage, Jeff Goldblum, Boyan Yang, Marissa Bode, and Ethan Slater and Jonathan Bailey in supporting roles. Set in the land of Oz before Dorothy Gale's arrival from Kansas, the plot follows Elphaba, the future Wicked Witch of the West, and her friendship with her classmate Glinda, who becomes Glinda the Good. This film grossed $723 million worldwide on a $150 million budget, becoming the highest grossing Oz film, the highest grossing musical film adaptation of all time, the 12th highest grossing film released by Universal, and the 5th highest grossing film of 2024. Its sequel will be released in November of this year, and it has garnered 3 Academy Award nominations for Best Picture, Best Actress for Erivo, and Best Supporting Actress for Grande, and was the selection of our guest of Sticky Notes Conversations, Erika Washington. Erika, what have you to say of Wicked?
Woo! Loved it. So I'll start by saying that I am a fan of musicals.
Okay.
Like, I love musicals. Any chance I get to New York and see a Broadway show, I'm going to do it. I also have a very extensive playlist on Spotify that I use, and that's what I work to usually. When I turn on music, I turn on, it's called Writing My Happiness, and that's where I do the majority of my work, is listening to musicals. There's something about it that energizes me and inspires me, and I can listen to it in the background, and it's not distracting, right? And so I have listened to the Wicked soundtrack for years, years and years and years. So I already knew all the words. Even before I'd ever seen the show, like on a stage, I already knew all the words. And so, but actually being able to see it, and I think seeing it on the big screen, first thing I'll say is like the cinematography is beautiful. Like it's so pretty to look at. And, it's just grand, the whole thing. And I think that the casting was also excellent. I think that even looking at like a lot of the extras, the munchkins, there was a lot. They're very colorful. You know, it was a lot of DEI, I guess, in there. Like there's just a lot of diversity in the cast, and
It
so
was made the right year.
yeah, and it right, and so I loved all of that. And although I had known again all of the words, it was different
Yeah.
to watch it. And when I watched it, and the reason why I even suggested this movie for this show, talking about, you know, Black films, is because how it made me feel.
Okay.
And with Cynthia Erivo playing Elphaba, it took on this space of really feeling like how Black women have been treated for hundreds and hundreds of years. And it was really just off the color of her skin. That really, she was not deformed in any way. She didn't, you know, no one even thought of her as a witch. Like, no one cared about magical powers, even though she showcased them as a child. No one was like, oh, it's because she's got magic. Like, that's why. It was literally off of the color of her skin that she was being judged, and judged harshly by everyone, including her own father.
I know.
Who was really crappy to her. And so watching this movie, it made me think about Sarah Bartman, and who was a South African woman born in the 1700s, who was paraded around because of what she looked like, and she was also called the Venus Hottentot, and so she had this very large derriere, and and her vagina looked different, I guess, compared to whatever they thought it was supposed to look like. And so she was on display like a circus animal, and was even after she died.
That's right.
And it was just about how she looked, and they didn't treat her like a human being. They didn't think she was a human being. And it also made me think of Lucy Betsy, and I never pronounce her name right, so I apologize ahead of time, but it's Arnika. I think it's Arnika. Lucy, Betsy, and Arnika. They were three Black women, enslaved Black women in the United States, who were used as guinea pigs by J. Marion Sims, who's known as the father of gynecology. So, he helped create all these different instruments, but he did it off of experimenting on Black women because we didn't feel pain.
Right.
And so since we didn't feel pain, they could just do whatever they wanted to. And so it also made me think of that. And it made me think of how Elphaba just wanted to be. And even at a moment when she had a chance, because the wizard asked, basically, do you not want to be green? And she'd say no. She was like, no, that's not what I want. There was something else that she wanted more, which was to protect these animals that were being caged. And so, she wasn't thinking about herself. She was thinking about her community. And so again, I go back to thinking about Black women and how Black women have been this source of power and this source of community, and have held neighborhoods and whole communities together because they felt like they had to, and they did it, in spite of like whatever harm it was causing to them. And also thinking about the relationship between Elphaba and Galinda. Right. And so here you are with this pretty princess looking young woman, blonde, who
She's popular.
She's very popular, and she wants to take on Elphaba as a project. She's like, let me make her a project, and I can make you better, and I can make you different. And she didn't have any desire to be different, and she, quote unquote, or I should say in air quotes, befriends her. And Elphaba gives her a gift of allowing her to then take the classes that the teacher didn't even want her in. And she allows her into this space or welcomes her into this space. And even in the end, when they announce over the loudspeaker that Elphaba's a witch and she did all this and she shouldn't be trusted, Galinda stands there.
Yeah.
She stands there and was like, well, you could just go apologize to the wizard.
Sure.
Like it was so lost on her own humanity. She did not see humanity
Of course not.
in Elphaba. And so all of this for me just sort of like brings home just this cycle that I've seen constantly, especially in the work that I do, and especially thinking about politics and how the 92% of Black women that shows up in elections and, you know, not even just this election, but every single one of them.
Right.
Yet, and that's, we're thanked for 5 minutes, and the whole trust Black women and that sort of it's a campaign because it's a fad, but then it goes away. And so, but we don't feel that sense of unity. You know, I also think about Ain't I a Woman, you know, and think about, you know, that speech about, you know, am I not as deserving for a man to hold a door open and to not be caught in the rain and that sort of thing. And that came around the time of, you know, women's suffrage, of white women trying to advocate for the right to vote for themselves. And when it came down to it and they had to choose, well, if we give you the right to vote, we have to, like, you can't have Black women a part of this. And so they just like, okay, no, not y'all. Like, we get thrown off to the curb because, you know, we need this one thing. And to me, that was Galinda.
Definitely,
Galinda was
100%.
like, Galinda was like, so yeah, I'm going to stay, because she saw what happened. She was there for the whole thing with her own eyes and saw everything that happened, and she still chose the side of what was good for her and not good for the whole. And so for me, it just it really resonated in this way so deeply that I was just like, I wonder if other people see this. Like, do you see what I see, and can we use this as a vehicle to talk about it? And I don't know if change will be made so much, but is it clear enough on this giant screen where millions of people had to see it with those type of numbers, right? And probably saw it more than once. Did they see like how self-centered certain folks can be, and you're not including the whole of everybody when we're talking about fighting for what's right and what our rights are? Because if it's good for Black women, it's good for everybody else.
Well, I think that you're right. Millions of people saw this film, and I think there's going to be an audience that are going to see the connections that you made, but there is also going to be an audience, and we can argue the percentages, that just see this, reimagining of the Wizard of Oz, and you know, like, they made the good witch, now she's actually kind of like the ambiguously bad witch, or what have you, right? Or they're going to look at it and they're not going to see the color, right? And whether or not that's because of the privilege of not really having to associate it with it in that way, or because they can tell themselves, yeah, but Cynthia Erivo's green in the movie, right? And there's no other real prominent Black person of color in this film, or, you know, I have to say Black presenting in this color in this film. So I think that's
the point, though, right? Because there's plenty of Black people in the movie,
right, but they're there, but they're not.
But these are the others. But here we are with this person who actually looks different, and she's actually different than the other, because even her sister, her sister's light skinned,
very light,
very light,
very light, and I
like noticeably,
yeah.
And I actually was a little. What bothered me a little bit, and I had to remember, like, it's a little bit in the stage play, that there wasn't more of a relationship between the two of them. You know, in the film, especially when people are coming down on Elphaba, and you're like, and they cut to the sister, and the sister's not reaching out to her sister.
She wanted space from her too, because she was tired of being around the different person.
Right.
Yeah, but she wanted space, but she was also, I guess, at the same time, she is seeing how she is being a little othered by the Munchkin guy that is coming on to her because of his fakeness of why he's involved with her is only because he wants to catch the eye of Galinda, because he is being as phony as white presenting people tend to be in this film. This was I saw it on stage and fell in love with the whole story of it. And I love, like you just said, like you spoke earlier about liking historical fiction. I like historical fiction, but I also like reimagining something, even if it is fiction, and looking at it from a different lens in the way that this reimagined The Wizard of Oz. So I appreciated that. But I too could not help but see the othering of Elphaba and being taken in by it, the fakeness of Galinda, who, as fake as she is, I'm gonna go out and Vincent, you came in earlier to saying it. She gets on your nerve because that's how good a job Ariana Grande is doing in that role. She's nominated for an Academy Award, and I think it's well deserved. But so is Cynthia Erivo in this film, and the emotions that both of them are putting through in this film is palpable and bleeds off the screen. And actually, that is what kept me invested in the movie. The yin and yang of this black woman and this white woman. Yes, that story was like, it was excruciating to witness, but I too, like you, wonder, are people seeing the threads that are being laid down here, especially because, at the end of the film, the black woman, the wicked witch, the othered, is now in all her supreme power at the end. And, as much as she is still in her wicked witchness, she's the one that's flying off with the cape. She is the hero at the end, right? She gets the superhero moment at the end. So I'm wondering if people are actually seeing those threads that are, or the breadcrumbs that are being put in this film. But it was a lot deeper than I expected.
Right.
A lot deeper. And I don't know if I even picked up on them seeing the stage play as much as I did here.
Well, I think, to why we're talking about it on here, I think when it came up before, and I've said, I know I've seen this on stage at least twice, and have no memories of it. Like it really left no mark on me whatsoever.
Yeah,
I really, I do my best not to yuck people's yum. So, it wasn't my thing. People seem to like it. That's your thing. Right. It didn't leave a mark on me. And I do think part of the reason is it's sort of one of my pet peeves generally about science fiction and genre fiction, where these white creators love to talk about race without actually having any black people. Like, we don't get that yucky black people in my stuff. And I do think as a text and historically, this has been a story where they talk about, we need to celebrate diversity, and, this person's being picked on because they're different, but we don't have any black people involved in it. And it fell under that. But I was fascinated by this casting, because when you actually cast Cynthia Erivo in this role, as you all have said, there is an edge to this story that I don't think you have on stage when everyone is white.
Right.
And the fact that Cynthia Erivo is this black woman is very much a black woman, regardless of the green makeup. I do think it was a choice to make her sister this very light-skinned, almost passing woman, so that the one true, not true, but the one visually black person is the one being just sort of ostracized, being teased. and to
Being
set up, and this Galinda character who textually is set up as this kind of fake, superficial character. When you contrast this very blonde, very white, very pink wearing, ultra feminized, very fake character with Elphaba, but now being played by a black woman, there is this wonderful edge to it that, I'm not going to go so far as to say, I loved it, because I do think like 2.5 hours. Like I don't know if the juice was worth the squeeze for 2.5 hours, but it certainly kept me invested way more than I think I would have been if Cynthia Erivo was not cast. Mm-hmm. Having said that, the irony, or to contradict myself, I think Ariana Grande is better than Cynthia Erivo in this. Like, I think Ariana Grande was actually great in this role, and she's got this pep, and she's got this sort of real tongue-in-cheek performance that she does in it, and I think Cynthia Erivo is good and everything, but this sort of dynamic between them, I thought, I was like, Cynthia, I need you to bring it a little more, because Ariana Grande is really killing it. But besides that, much like you, and I figured this when you heard, like I knew, like, this was printing money, and they knew it when they made it, and you can see it on the screen. The set design, the costumes, the cinematography, the direct, this is something that I thought justified attaching itself to an old classic film like The Wizard of Oz, because it was a big production, and it was, just everything was big about it. And I appreciate that just on the level of craft, So, yeah, I 100% get it.
The details of it were beautiful. The library, the place where the books are, like, it was just beautiful. Like there was so many,
rare books,
right? Exactly. And so, seeing that and seeing how much time they put into it, and also knowing that they film both of them back to back, that feels unusual. I don't know how often that actually happens, where you film such a big movie and then you film the sequel at the same time, because they already knew, like, this is this is gonna be it. So whoever really invested into everything, which I appreciate. And I to your point about Ariana Grande, I do think she was amazing. I think that she's an amazing actress. She's an amazing singer. Like, I think people don't sometimes give her the credit because she is sort of flouncy and what have you.
I am people.
So
okay,
people such as yourself that don't give her that credit, because she's also done a lot of like poppy type stuff, right? Yeah. And so,
wasn't she like a Nickelodeon kid?
Yes,
yep.
she was.
100%.
She was. And so, this gave her a chance to do more. Whereas Cynthia Erivo,
she's been out there,
right?
And this is,
and you expect it.
You do, and also I didn't know how I felt about her before this.
the
actress, because there was something that happened. I think it was around the time when she filmed the Harriet Tubman movie. Yeah. Or was it called Harriet. And she said some things about African American people that really
British.
because she's British. And so, that really turned me off from her as a person, because I'm just like, well, why do I want to see your movies if that's how you feel about us? But also understanding the same way I said earlier about us being siloed, non-African American people don't know what that struggle is to be Black in America. And so, but then you can come here and play a Black person, that has lived in America, but you still may not get it. because life is not going to be the same for you. Your life was, or your ancestors weren't destroyed in the same way that ours were destroyed. And not just talking about slavery. We could also just be talking about, you know, the late 1800s into the 1900s and Reconstruction and all of that. And so there's so many layers to that. But I will say that she just really didn't sit well with me. And so probably why I didn't see the Aretha movie. But I saw her in this and I was like, okay, well, she's fine, I guess. You know, I like her well enough. But I mean, I think she did a good job. I don't know if she was less than Ariana Grande, but I will say that I appreciate her doing this movie. And I think that if it would have been, you know, a non-Black woman, I wouldn't have felt what I felt about the movie. I wouldn't have even, I don't even know if I would have saw it the same way because again, I've listened to the cast recording forever and I love Idina Menzel. I love her voice, you know, Rent, all of the things she's been in. But Wicked never affected me in the way that it did.
I'm curious.
I was about to say, it's funny you meant that because there's a wonderful, I mean, at this point, I assume Wicked people have seen Wicked, so I'm not spoiling this.
Right.
And as you said, the original Broadway duo who played these roles are Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth, who I adore as an actress.
Yes.
And they have cameos in. And I said, if I was Ariana Grande's manager, I would have said no to this because it really was, you know, they're only on screen for like 2 minutes together in their cameo. But as soon as you see them, it's like the Cat Williams joke, like a Chrysler 300 looks like a Phantom until a Phantom pulls up.
Yeah.
And that moment with the two of them, it was like, oh yeah. This is it right here.
Grown-ups have entered the
right,
chat.
the grown-ups have come into the movie. It's like, well, can we just
see this
Can we
movie?
just stay with them because they're fantastic in that one, like a minute or two.
Yeah.
So
And to your point, you know, Idina Menzel can kind of stay there because Cynthia Erivo's given a different type of vibe to
right. It's a whole different.
It's a whole different lane.
Yeah.
Different lane. Whereas Ariana Grande looking like you know, like Kristen Chenoweth's elbow next to her.
Right. Like she's doing Kristen Chenoweth cosplay.
Right. It's like
I'm dressed up like Kristen Chenoweth for Halloween.
it's not doing her any favor.
Right.
Yeah.
Like we're about to show you popular. It's right here.
Right.
It's Kristen Chenoweth.
Which was my favorite song. And, you know, I do think Ariana Grande
He came in
killed it.
skipping to the studio. We're like, Vince, how you doing? I'm popular.
I thought it was the best number in the film. I really did.
I mean, she's swinging around on the chandelier and all of that. It's all, the choreography is great. Like
Choreography is great.
This just shows like when you really invest in a movie,
Yes.
what it can be.
Yeah.
Like, so it sets the bar so high.
Yeah.
And so if any other musicals turn into movies in this way, like the bar is just super, super high.
The choreography is beautiful, but what also makes it work is that the choreography is being done on actual sets.
Yeah.
Because it would have been real easy, even though there is some CGI, it would have been real easy for them to just basically do just all big green screens and have them just on like a sound stage, you know, like a decorated sound stage. But no, they talk about how they wanted to build some actual sets so that you had the scale of Oz, you know, of Munchkin Land, like it felt in 1939 when it was actual sets, actual buildings that you were walking, halls that you were walking into, and I think for me that really helped sell the film because there's a part of me, especially because the movie, some of the music, especially even in the beginning and at the end, has a bit of the more contemporary movie tone to it as opposed to something adapted from Broadway. I think one of the reasons why you were saying like Defying Gravity doesn't really get over for you, Vincent, in this film is because it sounds like a movie musical as opposed to the Broadway production of it that you would have on stage. And the film, when it starts off, some of the music has a little bit of that vibe, almost like the Hans Zimmer vibe to me in the beginning. So I was like, oh, where are we going with this? But then when you actually go to the actual sets and you see the people dancing in lands and then on the windows and everything like that, it's like, okay, all right, y'all build out the Broadway play the right way, and now I'm in this universe. I'm in this world. I'm just not watching a movie. I'm inside the play, and I really appreciated that. That's what got it over for me.
Yeah.
Here's something, I don't know where this fits into this conversation, but I took note of it because, obviously this is part one, and part of the job of part one is to sell you on part two. And the two things that kind of made me go, okay, I'll watch. Jeff Goldblum comes in at the end, and you assume he's going to be much more present in the second part. And always time for Jeff Goldblum. Again, spoiler. Michelle Yeoh has a role throughout the film, but then there's a turn at the end. And I love evil Michelle Yeoh. There's a moment when she's walking up the hallway with flying monkeys behind her. I said, okay. Now, this I can deal with. But reading about the second part of the story, because, again, I've seen it, but I had just forgotten the details. There is a moment towards the end where the monkeys become the flying monkeys. And it's actually body horror with the wings. And I thought that moment was so well done.
Yes.
And so striking. And I know there's going to be some body horror in the second part. And I appreciated in this huge, big budget thing where you have to assume accountants and lawyers and studio people said, we got to sell pajamas, we got to sell lunch boxes, we got to do all this stuff. They had this moment of pure horror. Again, pure body horror. Because that's what the story demands. And I appreciated that because I do think oftentimes with these big hoo-ha films, they play it safe. And that was a surprising moment to me. Even the moment where the monkeys are breaking the glass. And I was like, wow, this is surprisingly intense now.
Well, there's the difference between this being a Universal Pictures production and a Disney production.
Okay.
Disney, I think you're right. They massage out that body horror or is in shadow or something like that. Universal, which famously is known for the Universal monsters, they kind of know how to fold that in to a story. They got a history with it. And they're not afraid of marrying the two because while this is definitely for a family, they recognize this is a family of all ages. And if it scares the little kids, the parents are going to be right there for them.
And you're just going to have to deal with little Billy's nightmares for the next 2 weeks.
That's all.
Yeah.
He'll be fine. Sleep with your brother.
Or not. That's what therapy's for.
Exactly. But also, and I haven't read the books. I started the first book in the Wicked series. And just in the first couple of chapters, it's really gory. And I've heard that it's really, really dark. And so I was actually like, oh, do I have time to read a book before so I can layer that into this conversation? But I didn't have time for that. But what I did get to, Elphaba as a baby, she bit off somebody's finger. It was it was really gory. And I was like, oh, maybe this is not for me either. Because again, the gore is not for me. But I do appreciate how the monkeys came in and how she showed how she did what she did, and because they asked her to, and she wanted to please the wizard, and the wizard, which I don't know if this is a spoiler, but that's her father. The wizard is her father. And
okay,
so
that was a spoiler.
That was
and
a pretty big spoiler, actually.
Oh, sorry, my bad. I mean, to me, it's obvious, right?
Yeah, he's Darth Vader.
It's obvious, right? He mentions it. I always wanted to be a parent, and
right.
like a daughter or whatever.
Subtle.
Right? It's not. And if you
Well,
go
it's
back,
Jeff Goldblum.
right? True. But if you go back to the beginning, that's his voice when Mama's, dancing, drinking her green elixir, sipping on the scissor. Right.
I like Mom.
Oh, mom was, yeah.
Mom was ready for. She was ready for old boy to leave. So,
Mm-hmm.
All right, Mom, I see you.
so and I guess that's what happens when you have an affair with a green baby. I guess that's how the sinning is uncovered.
That's how it works.
But what I always wondered is, did the father know that wasn't his child, or did he assume that
Something went wrong.
something went wrong, or did he treat her that way, not just because she's green, but also because your mama was,
Right.
stepping out?
I don't know. I don't remember that detail.
I don't know.
I mean, they didn't say.
They don't.
but
They don't say, and
I thought maybe it would come up in the second part.
well, it's not really a talking point in the stage play, right? And I didn't read the book. It probably does spell it out more in the book. And famously, even from the original Wizard of Oz series, those series of books by Frank Baum, those were a lot darker than what the Wizard of Oz film was. So they historically has, they massage the adaptations for a wider audience. But I don't know whether or not Dad knew or not. I want to think that in the movie, not in the stage play, but in the movie, he gave his baby to a bear. So
It's also true.
maybe he knew, maybe he didn't
But
know.
the bear was a nanny, so there's that.
The bear was a nanny.
So he had qualifications.
The bear was a nanny.
Dulcie Bear had qualifications.
That's true.
It wasn't just some random Berenstain Bear in the forest.
It's not like you gave him to Michael Jackson and said, let's go in the cave. Michael Jackson, take my baby.
Never mind. I'm going to give it to the bear.
I'm going to give it to the bear.
The bear was very loving, though.
It was
bear
a
was very loving.
Much
very
more
loving
loving than the parent, for sure.
bear. Yeah.
Most certainly.
I mean, even the mom didn't even say anything when he said, take it away.
Yeah.
But,
She said nothing.
because Mom knew.
Okay, but still, it's still her child, even if it came from lust. It was still her child. It's a love child. That was her love child.
That's right. She rolling around with a traveling salesman.
Right? Drinking the green elixir.
Green elixir. Like, whoa.
Whoa, indeed. All right. Okay, but before we, because it's getting a little late, let's ask and answer the question: Is Wicked a black film?
I've thought a lot about this question, obviously. I think that this version, this movie, Wicked, feels like a black film because it lends to the black experience historically and in current times. And I feel like if you just pay attention in that way, it very much lends itself to being a story of the black experience. So I'm going to say yes.
Vincent?
I'll go along with that. I'm not going to fight that hard for it as a black film, but I do think, again,
Meaning that if somebody argued
that it's not. And certainly just looking at the text, because I do think any argument about this film's blackness revolves around this very specific casting. But that casting, pardon the pun, changes the complexion of the whole thing. It really does.
I wonder how much is that as part of the director, John Chu.
Well, again, I did not pay attention to this film and its development at all until Cynthia Erivo was cast. Like, she was cast, and then it was like, okay, I got it. It's like Micheaux mission stuff. Oh God, black people are involved. I guess I got to pay attention to it. But I do wonder about the conversations that led up to she's in the running for it, and then she gets cast. But Honestly, you know what would have been fascinating? This has been my argument about like The Wiz forever, where like I think it would have been more interesting if Lena Horne had played the Wicked Witch and Mabel King had played Glinda. Like, imagine if Cynthia Erivo would have played Glinda. And then, have a white girl under the green makeup. What's that dynamic do? Like could a black woman have like could they have gotten, I'm just thinking about black woman with blonde hair. Like, could they have gotten Beyonce to play Glinda?
But
let's assume it's a parallel universe where she can act. Let's assume.
Say.
I know, but like, you see what I'm saying?
No, I was going to say you're right, because then the question is, you're not necessarily seeing it as a black movie,
right? Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm moving the pieces around.
Yeah.
Because certainly, if a white woman is playing Elphaba, it's not a black movie, right. But it really is this specific alchemy of the two of them that I think it is. I think it works as a black movie. And you?
Oh, I thought it was a black woman movie when I saw that Cynthia Erivo was cast. I was like, oh, we're going to be reviewing this. This is a black film. If for no other reason, because she is in the lead of this film. That has been enough in our criteria in the history of the Micheaux mission. Now, does history, will they see this as a black film? I think if you haven't seen it, outside eyes, like, I don't know if that's a black film. It's about the Wizard of Oz. I don't know, But if you watch it and really see what the text is telling you, I think it's undeniably a black film.
Now, what I am fascinated about going forward, because you said you liked the music, had you seen it on stage?
I actually was one of the few that I had not seen on stage.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
So I am curious, but you did see it on stage.
Yes, I did.
So, like, I am wondering about that dynamic. Like, I saw it on stage with the all-white cast, and now I've seen the movie. And how does that affect your
Well,
view
I
of
would
it?
say I've seen enough of, like, because I had listened to the music, so I knew who the characters were, and I knew who played them, that it never crossed my mind to think about it as skin color, besides it just being she's green, right? It never crossed my mind to think about how people are treating her because she's green, because of her skin tone, but more or less just because she's a witch. But also, I hadn't seen the context around the songs, right? And so I think that's the other thing about this movie is that even people I think who don't love musicals could get down with this because there's enough space between songs. It isn't song after song after song.
Yes, there is.
It wasn't like all of a sudden we're just singing for no reason. It actually feels like it fits. But I think that also thinking about in the beginning, there are the posters of Elphaba, the propaganda, and they look nothing like her.
Of course not. Of course not.
And so it just made me think about caricatures of black people, or in blackface or whatever, and how evil they are, out to get the white ladies or whatever it is, black men we're going to do, and, whatever that is. And so that also led to, me thinking about this from through the lens of a black person and as a black woman and being misconstrued as something that I'm not because of how I look and not for who I am. And so, I don't know if that I'd see it the same way if it would have just been all white characters. I probably wouldn't. I probably would have still enjoyed it, but I would have enjoyed it because I like musicals, not because it wouldn't have hit me in a deeper level in that way. And I think also, again, it came out right around time of the election. And so, there's that added a layer of tiredness to
little blonde haired white woman betraying you. It was like, here we are, 53%.
Saying they're going to do one thing and then do something else because we vote in our own interest and we protect white supremacy, not, the feminist majority.
All right. Well, we've come to the point where
But Popular is a very catchy song.
It is a good song. I love it. I love Defying Gravity too, though.
Would you recommend that people see Wicked?
Oh, yes. All 2 hours and 45 minutes of it. Watch it.
It's a lot.
You know what? Our attention spans have gotten shorter over the years, so we need something that grounds us, and keeps us still. This and Club Shay Shay, you could just sit still for a couple hours.
This and Club Shay Shay. Wow,
I mean,
I didn't see that comparison.
I mean, his shows are super long, sometimes longer than they need to be. But there's a lot happening there. But folks are sitting still for it. So I believe in people that we can sit still for a couple of hours and watch something.
Yeah.
So yes, I recommend it.
Vincent?
I think the pluses outweigh the minuses. I do think they're a fair amount. I do think it's really long, but I do think there's enough in there to kind of keep you there. So I fall on the side of I would recommend it.
Must be a lot of pluses because this is real long and it's part 1. So let's remember that.
Yeah, but I think part 2 is where it gets really bananas.
It does.
Like I actually don't know if part 2 is going to be black because it's just bananas.
Well, I don't think part 2 is going to be necessarily as black, but it'll be interesting because it'll still be Cynthia Erivo. So
Sure.
So the subtext will be there.
Sure.
But this is not much of a spoiler alert. But part 2 takes place kind of like in the same time of the actual story of the Wizard of Oz.
Nessa Rose in them pretty shoes.
Yeah. So
Wah, wah.
this. So that'll actually be interesting. That'll actually be very interesting and actually real fun to take on. I'm actually looking forward to it. So yes, I would recommend that people see Wicked. And if you're watching on streaming, you have no choice because you've bought it. So
Don't even get me started on that.
why couldn't you come in March?
Not the same.
Pick something
Because we
March,
could
you
have
could've
rented it.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, I offered to see if you wanted to do a love story since it was Valentine's week, but y'all said no. So y'all wanted to see it. Y'all wanted to buy it. You just want to use me as a fall guy, but y'all want it. Now you have it forever.
Now we have it forever.
Oh.
We do. We're wicked together.
Yay! Now we'll be wicked for good for the next.
Look at you. Look at you. It's like she ain't got a podcast. You know what she's doing. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Erica, thank you so much for joining
Yeah,
us.
thank you.
Thank you. This was so much fun. I knew it would
good.
be
I'm
fun,
glad.
and I'm really excited to be here. So
This was
This is
great.
dope.
Yeah.
This was
was
great.
dope.
All right. We'll have to come for some sticky note conversation.
I hope you will, because I have lots of questions for you guys. Lots and lots of questions.
All right.
We're down for that.
That's right.
All right, before we tell you what we're going to be reviewing next week and our special guest next week, we invite you to let us know what you thought of our review of Wicked. If you have anything to say to us, have anything to say to Erica, email us at micheauxmission@gmail.com. That's MICHEAUX MISSION @gmail.com. The Micheaux Mission is also a proud member of The Podglomerate. They make podcast work such as ours, which is streamed every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. right here from Young Junk, Philadelphia's premier video podcast palace. If you want to book yourself in one of the beautiful studios that they have here available for your podcasting, then get in touch with our man Dylan at youngjunk.com. That's DYLAN at youngjunk.com. The Micheaux Mission is also on your favorite social media, and you can find us at Micheaux Mission. That means Instagram, that means Facebook, and of course, that means YouTube, where you can hit the bell, subscribe, and be advised when we go live, when we put up our videos, and you can join all of the missionaries that are in the chat. The Micheaux Mission is also a podcast available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere that you find podcasts. We actually release 2 episodes each week on Tuesdays, such as today. We release Mission Logs, the best of the Micheaux Mission, where we're in the midst of the Micheaux Mystic Connection. Today, Vincent, we actually posted our review of Strictly Business with Dorian and Simone Missick.
Good time.
It was done live in Brooklyn. And this episode, our review of Wicked with our good friend, Erika Washington, the best Washington, will be available for your streaming pleasure via as an audio podcast come Thursday morning. All right? Okay, next week on the Micheaux Mission, we have a very special guest. We have writer and culture critic Angelica Jade Bastien, and she is bringing us not one, not two, but three phenomenal black short films, starting with 1979's Killing Time, right here next week on the Micheaux Mission. Can't wait for that review. Promises to be a lot of fun. Until then, he's Vincent, that's Erika, I'm Len, and in parting we say,
We'll see you when it's time to meet again.